This is Ciaran Gibbons speaking to Abertillery MMA fighter and cage warrior champion Jack Shaw. Jack, could you just tell us how you first became involved in MMA?
Yeah, started kickboxing when I was 6. My old man just took, my old man have always been into martial arts, so he took me. It was a bit of fitness and whatever, and it just went from here. I started MMA. I was about 13. Started competing as an amateur then in jiu-jitsu and obviously amateur MMA from jiu-jitsu from about 13 onwards. Amateur MMA, I had my first fight at 17. When I'm beaten as an amateur, won the IMMAF European title, where I had to have 4 fights in 3 days. And then age 21, then I went pro, signed with Cage Warriors after 1 fight. I think I was the first person to ever sign with them after so little experience. And won the world title then back in December in my 10th pro fight. So been a long couple of years, but enjoyable. I can't complain.
What was it about MMA that you obviously enjoyed and you were obviously good at that you decided to pursue? Because obviously for a young man, for a young boy, it requires a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice. When you and your friends are probably out having fun, you were probably starving yourselves, making weight training. What was it about the sport that grabbed your attention?
I think it was 2 things really. Obviously, being in it from so young, I developed a good skill set from a young age. So it was always something I excelled at. I was always played rugby and football as a kid, but I was always better at fighting. And it's something I love to do. It sounds a bit cliche, but it's something I enjoy doing. And even when I retire in 10, 15 years' time, I don't think it's not something I'll ever step away from completely. I'll always look to coach and help out. But obviously growing up as well, my old man was a fighter himself, and I grew up around a lot of boys from Abertillery, Jack Marshman, Martin McDonough, Chris Edwards, who I looked up to, and they were all pro fighters as well. So it was, as soon as I started going to the shows, watching them prepare for their fights and fighting and winning in front of these big crowds, it was something I dreamed of as a kid. And in fairness to my old man and my mother, they always said, get your degree in uni and we'll support you for 2 years to go pro. And thankfully now I make enough money that I can do it full time and earn a wage from it. So, but it's just gone from me. It's something I love to do, and like I said, it's not something that I can ever see myself stepping away from. I'll do it as long as I'm physically capable of doing it. It's something I'm always gonna have my heart in.
As a young MMA fighter, obviously it's a growing sport. I mean, was there many guys around your weight? How many contests you have as a youngster?
Jiu-jitsu wise, I had probably over 100 bouts, so it obviously is a big scene. MMA, I had 12 amateur fights, and just as I was starting to turn pro, the amateur scene have sort of exploded now. I done the first ever IMMAF European Championship, whereas now they got the IMMAF Asia Open, the IMMAF European. You got the Cage Warriors Amateur Grand Prix. You got the IMMAF World. So it's really blown up now. Obviously, it was starting to get big towards as I was coming towards the end of my amateur run, but. There was plenty of fights about. It's a lot different to what people think. People, they don't like the term casual fan, but people who don't really take much of an interest in it seem to think it's still how it was 20 years ago. Knowles bar fighting, but it's come a long way from that. It's a registered sport. There's rules, there's regulations. It's the same as boxing. You got to make weight. You got to have brain scans. And it cost me close to $1,000 every fight to get my medical proceedings in touch. So. But it's nice to see the sport come where it is, especially in Wales now since Brett and Jack and obviously John Phillips have gone to the UFC. It's blown right up, so it's nice to see it get bigger and bigger, and hopefully we can carry that momentum going forward and keep building on it.
For any young amateur fighter, whether it be boxing, MMA or any other combat sport, obviously the big decision is going pro. I mean, how long did you mull that decision over, or was it just inevitable that you were going to turn pro?
It was always inevitable, but obviously you got to turn at the right time. I think I was 8-0, and we considered turning pro at the end of 2015, and then I was asked to go to the Team UK trial for the IMMAF European, and obviously there'd been a couple of tournaments like that before, and the boys who won it had always gone on to have a big pro contract. So I decided to go for that, and then obviously winning that, it opened up a good few doors. It got my name out there a bit. So after winning that, I think that was the right time for me to go then, and my coaches and myself obviously decided to turn pro with Cage Warriors then.
So when you decided to turn pro, which trainers were you training with at the time?
The first turning pro, obviously my old man Richard Shaw was my head coach, and I was boxing with Gary Reese at the time. I had 2 fights then as a pro, and I started training with Gary Lockett, and now I've got quite a few coaches now actually. Obviously my dad's still my head coach, Gary does my boxing. My MMA and wrestling coach, Carl Parker, my Thai coach, Crew Heem, and then I've got my strength conditioning coach, Greg Carlo. So there's a lot of minds, there's a lot of people having input to get the finished article, so to speak, when you fight, and I'm thankful to have them all. Without them, I wouldn't be half the fighter I am now. So it's important to keep open-minded, I think, especially as a young fighter coming up. If you've got to bring in another coach to sort of push yourself a little bit further, then don't be afraid to do it, because more minds are better, really.
Is it difficult for you to manage your time, to manage to fit in all this training?
It can't be. I've quite nailed down. I've been full time for about 3 years, just under. So when I first started, training 2-3 times a day is a bit of a shock to the system. But I've got it nailed now. I train 3 or 4 times some days, 6 days a week, especially when I got a fight coming up. So it's about getting it all in. But you've got to train smart as well. You've got to listen to your body. If you need a rest, you don't want to be overtrained. You need a little rest sometimes. So it's important to have the balance right. But the more you do it, the more you get a feel for your body and what's right for you.
Tell us about, from your pro debut right through to your last fight, which I believe you won the World Championship. Tell us about that progression.
I turned pro 2016. I fought in Eberville Leisure Centre. It's a little small show. And I was approached then by Graham Boylan, who owns Cage Warriors, to sign with them and also sign with his management company, Intensity. So my dad got a good relationship with Graham. They get on well. They trust each other. And at the time they were on BT Sport and Fight Pass, which is UFC Fight Pass is a big deal, in MMA. So I was getting exposure on there. I went 9-0 in the Cage Warriors, and they offered me I went 8-0 in the Cage Warriors. They offered me a title shot in September. All signed and sealed, and my opponent pulled out the day of the weigh-in through an issue with his brain scan. So I didn't fight for the belt that night. I fought replacement, and then December was Cage Warriors 100, which was their biggest show to date, and I was fortunate to main event it in the Ice Arena, and I won by 3rd round TKO. Then in the Ice Arena, beat in Mike Yakindeo and obviously become the champion. So it's been not a long journey, but a tough journey. Didn't rush it, just took my time, plodded along, and it's paid off.
What was it like winning that title in Cardiff in front of an army of fans on television as well? What was it like for you?
It was an unbelievable experience. Obviously, not many people get to even fight for a world title, but to do it in your own country, in front of all your friends and your family, and it was a sold out. I think it was 5,000 people in there, so it was a mad atmosphere and a mad feeling. Sometimes you don't really feel the atmosphere during a fight because you're so zoned in, but it was walking out. It was impossible not to. I had people chucking Welsh flags at me and screaming and shouting. So it's something I'll never forget. And looking forward to doing it again now in April again. So it's something I'm thankful to Cage Warriors for as well, for putting that sort of big show on in Wales is good, and the fact that they got a lot of faith in the Welsh fans and the Welsh fighters is nice to see.
And what's the fans' reaction been, and the general public's reaction been to you winning that title? Have you noticed a difference?
Yeah, it's been mental. My social media's gone nuts. I have messages every day. I haven't fought now since December, so people are pestering me, when you fighting, who you fighting, any news on the fight. So, but yeah, I'm thankful for it all. Obviously, I'll never not be thankful for support, and I like to try and give as much time back to people as I can. So, but yeah, and in Aptleary as well. I can't walk through Aptleary town now without being stopped. When's my next fight? And well done on my last fight. But it's all good. It's something you've got to be grateful for. A young kid like me from the valleys to have that sort of following and people coming up to me asking for a picture and stuff like that. It's nice. It's a nice feeling.
So, what's the big MMA dream for you? Looking towards the future.
Honestly, I think anyone who wants to be considered one of the best in the world, you've got to aim for the UFC. That's my plan. I got 3 fights left on my Cage Warriors contract. I'd like to see it out. Defend my belt a couple of times, and then obviously, providing all goes well, and I get them wins, the UFC come knocking, and I get to travel a bit then, get them fights in America and across Europe would be nice. Obviously I'm on the big stage there, all eyes, at the minute, there's a lot of eyes in Europe on me, but I think more so you get the UFC worldwide, then that's when you start making the big money, and, you get your name out there, but you look at people like Conor McGregor, stuff like that, that's the dream, and hopefully we can go in that direction, They've gone well so far, just got to keep the ball rolling and keep heading up that path.
Well, Jack, I look forward to following your career, and good luck for your next fight, and hopefully we'll watch you sometime in the UFC in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully. Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.